Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. I obviously did not get a late night video last night. I've been trying to do those on Saturday evenings for you. I apologize for that, but I was busy till after midnight doing medical call stuff, so it just sometimes just ain't happening. Got a hot week. We're back into, we've had abnormally cool temperatures for the last couple of weeks. Now we're going to do a complete 180 and we're going to have abnormally hot temperatures for the next several days here in the Ozarks. And we're also, much of the Ozarks is under serious drought conditions. Even though we were doing really good in the spring and early summer with more rain than we really needed. Yeah, we're now to drought conditions. It's extremely dry, crispy, dusty. If you live anywhere in that region, I'm just warning you, be careful with fires and stuff. This time of the year, under these conditions, they can happen. We've had a few in this region so far, but so far none of them have gotten out of hand. But it certainly could. Conditions are getting ripe, especially, I would say, by probably Tuesday. It's going to get close to the peak conditions for outdoor fires with the heat and the dryness. So just be careful. Yeah, so a lot of things are still happening. I mean, it's almost like it's sped up, like time has sped up. I mean, not literally, but just the events and the changing and the stuff that's happening in the news. So yesterday, Russia again flew some drones that, whether it was intentionally or accidentally, who knows, went outside of Ukraine and into NATO territory. And Romania scrambled some jets because some flew into their territory, into their airspace, and Poland, and then several others, NATO countries that had already kind of was there to help. They started scrambling their stuff. And so things were extremely tense for a few moments. It almost looked as if it was a possible attack on Poland or Romania or the NATO area. Looked like some of the drones were escorted back out, that they turned and went back to Ukraine. There's reports that maybe some were shot down. But yeah, it's just, here's the thing. I know that there's going to be people, well, drones go off course sometimes or blah, blah, blah. It doesn't really matter at this point. I've told you guys for years now that NATO they want a war with Russia. And this on top of what happened just a few days earlier in Poland with all the drones is it's fueling the fire for them to justify some type of other action. So things are extremely tense there. Ukraine, Russia had launched a massive drone strike in the last day or two into Ukraine. Well, Ukraine, of course, has turned around and done the same, and they lit up, I believe it's the second largest oil field up by St. Petersburg in Russia. So that's going to be an escalation. One of their largest oil fields, Ukraine attacked and lit on fire. So it's just spiraling. Middle East, kind of the same story. A lot of countries are coming up that were somewhat neutral. Even Saudi Arabia, standing alongside Qatar, saying that they will retaliate against Israel in some way. There was reports, or at least Egypt is saying that they have intelligence that one of the next targets for Israel was inside of Egypt. And then there's also similar reports saying that Israel has targets inside of Turkey, Hamas targets that they're planning on taking out. So we're seeing a more of a coalition of Arab states. They're actually talking about forming a NATO-style Middle Eastern alliance. And so things are heating up there. Then we move over to the Pacific, and things are heating up there too. Japan, the United States, and Philippines have been doing some naval drills, and apparently sailed some ships in the Taiwan Strait, and China's upset and says that you crossed lines, that you don't put your ships there. That's our territory. And so there's been some threats made. So, like I said, it's all over the board today with stuff. Then we move to the domestic issues, and of course, the Charlie Kirk assassination is still a hot topic. It is still becoming, it's not cooled down. The rhetoric on both sides has increased, especially even from Donald Trump, the president, and from other people on the right, calling for more action, for taking care of all of the radical left-wingers, and then the radical left-wingers are calling for taking out more people. So the rhetoric is heating up, not cooling down, even though it's been several days now. And I think that this is very possibly the event that could lead up to some type of Civil War-ish looking thing here in the United States. And I also think that that it's also going to be used as an excuse for a government crackdown, because already, the president, within a day or so after, ordered National Guard troops into more American cities like Memphis. We're seeing, Palantir's stock skyrocketed, went up. We're seeing for more on the conservative side now, calling for, restrictions of speech and things like that. The president's rhetoric himself. I think that we're going to start seeing more. I think it's just an open doorway now to crack down, to send National Guard troops into federal troops into places. And it's not just going to be because of illegals. I mean, that's what we were told in the beginning, that they were going to crack down on illegals. And then in Washington, D.C., they were used to pick up trash and remove graffiti, and to go around and tell people to quit smoking on their front porches and arrest people for all kinds of little things. So it ended up not just being about illegals. And now it's going to be about more. And I know that many of you are sitting there saying, yeah, but we do have a lot of these far left communist, crazy, mental, woke people. Yeah, we do. We do. But if we can justify using the big boot of government to stop them, to shut them up, to round them up, then someone could easily use this excuse to use the big boot of government against you and I. And that's how it usually starts. If you look throughout history, big government doesn't start by rounding up all the patriotic people. Big government starts by rounding up all the people that the majority doesn't like. We don't like these people because they're outcasts. They're going against the grain, and then eventually they're coming after you too. So it's a word of caution, because I know that there's a lot of people cheering this on. Yeah, we need to do something about it. Although I think it's probably far past the point of fixing. But using a big boot of government, the force, authority, physical authoritative force is usually never the answer. And anyway, so there's a lot of stuff happening. And by the way, when Charlie Kirk was assassinated, that same afternoon, the Senate voted in favor of blocking the release of the Epstein files. Just thought I'd throw that out there to you. But anyways, and also, this has taken away, distracted from the Epstein files, and distracted from the little, birthday drawing that has Trump's signature on it and things like that. There's a lot of stuff that, now no one's talking about. I'm not saying it was staged or fake or anything like that. Certainly that's not at all what I'm insinuating. But it's interesting how the national conversation so radically changes, and then people so quickly forget things. And I think that's all been orchestrated. They've got everyone's minds to where they're just, it's this instant gratification, and we just move on to the next thing. I've talked about that also for years, how anything that's big that happens, it only lasts, in the news cycle, usually at the most, maybe 2 weeks. It may be 2 weeks. The big stuff will last about 2 weeks before it starts fading away and something new and more exciting happens. But the bottom line, the bigger point is that there is just an immense amount of stuff happening. I could sit here, I'm sure, for hours talking about all the things that are going on over the last few days that are significant, and that they're indicators of where we are headed. But we have to realize that this is just the times that we live in. We are in a time period where the love of men is growing cold. The darkness, the evilness, the Satan. It's his rise in power because he's trying to do his last minute work here on earth because he knows his time is becoming limited. And we're going to see more evilness and more disruption and more chaos, because I believe that's just those birthing pains that we're living in. When Yeshua talked about it, Matthew, he lists all these wars and rumors of wars and all these things. He says, but that is not yet the end. And that's the leading up to the end, but it's not yet the end. And I think that we're in that time period. And what we need to be doing, along with our obvious physical preparations, are you stocked up? Do you have the food and the medical and the water and all that stuff? Are you capable of producing your own food? Are you capable of being self-sufficient? Do you have at least a few people around you that, are kind of your little group, tribe, whatever? Do you have communications? All those things are pretty obvious, right? You can watch millions of videos, I'm sure, or articles talking about how to be prepared in that way. But what a lot of people forget about is that we have to be prepared spiritually. That's far, far more important. Our spiritual preparedness, much like the shirt, pray, study, worship. We have to be spiritually prepared for what we are in the midst of. Like I just said, this is spiritual. I mean, the wars, the civil war, the wickedness, the murder, the hate, the violence, the economy, all of those things are physical manifestations of what's going on behind the scenes, behind the veil, which is an immense spiritual war that's happening, and that warfare is going to affect you. It's going to rock you. It's going to, put your faith into check. You're either going to see how strong or how weak your faith actually is in these times. And that's why we have to be prepared in that way. That's why we have to be consuming Scripture. We have to be dedicating ourselves to prayer and to making that connection with the Father, because that's the times that we live in. And no matter how strong you think your faith is, it's those that think that they're the strongest are the ones that I believe personally that Satan will come after the hardest. So that's what we need to be doing, because the world is a falling apart place, folks. That's not doomsday. That's just reality. Get your houses in order and prepare yourselves mentally, physically, and spiritually. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next video.